Too many of you guys are spending way too much money in marketing because you guys don't know what marketing channels even exist for you. So today we're breaking down a 1 hour marketing masterclass that covers all of the different marketing channels that we currently use in our business. So my name is Tim and I have a wholesale company out in Houston, Texas, and we grew our business to $50,000 a month in net profit in less than 2 years while working a full-time job. We've taken all that information and experience and put this into a school community where you have access right here. You get access to all of these courses and resources, and the link is down below if you're interested.
All right, so I'm gonna teach you guys the fundamental. Before you spend another dollar on marketing, you need to know what your numbers are. And this module is gonna turn your marketing from a slot machine into a very easable, trackable spreadsheet, okay? So a lot of you guys are spending money and you're literally gambling your money away. So I wanna guys teach you stuff. So what's the difference between data and leads, okay? So a lot of people say, oh, I have so many leads. I have thousands and thousands of leads, but what they don't understand is that they only have the data, right? If you have thousands of contacts, foreclosures, lease pendants, divorces, whatever the case may be, it is only data until you market to them. So either using any of the marketing channels that we're going to talk about today, but that is what actually turns people into the leads is by using the marketing. So do not confuse thousands of pieces of data versus thousands of pieces of leads because they have not talked to you, they have not expressed interest. You need to use the marketing channels to develop these leads. So marketing is a math. It's not magic, right? Everyone loves to use different thoughts, different ideas on marketing, what it is. But really, it's a system that predictably turns strangers, right? All the data that you have into people who raise their hand that say they want to sell their house or buy something from you. That's literally what marketing is. It's not branding, it's not getting your name out there. It's a system with inputs, outputs, conversation rates. All of these things are measurable, and we're going to teach you guys how to measure them so you can truly make a decision to improve that one output. Okay. So the big thing is like there's only one metric that really counts, and a lot of people in wholesaling don't actually think of their wholesaling business as a true business, right? They're just thinking about, oh, if I like spend all this money on ads or spend this much time on cold calling or whatever the case may be, I'm going to make money with wholesale. And I'll give you a quick example of like how people don't actually treat their business, their wholesale business or flipping business as an actual business because they're not actually tracking their numbers. So I'll use a real case study of someone that I talked to recently. She hired out a SMS agency. So she hired out a professional company that managed all her SMS, right? And she was doing deals. She was doing maybe 2 to 3 deals a month. And then she hit like a pretty bad point, was only doing maybe 1 to 2 deals a month. But after an entire year, so she didn't know this was happening because she was just happy and excited that she was closing a ton of deals. But what she found out was after a whole year of spending money on the text messages, on the agency itself, and after a whole year of doing all those deals, she actually broke even. So she spent an entire year of work, spent all that money just to break even because she was spending about 2 grand a month off the SMS agency, spending about $500 a month on just the text messages. And I think her average deal size was about $8,000 per deal. So she was essentially just like wiping out all of her cash just by paying that agency. So yes, she was getting contracts, she was doing deals, but she wasn't tracking her numbers. So this is why I wanted to have this slide up here is that there's only one metric that really matters when you're deciding which marketing channel is the best for you, and that's LTGP to CAC, right? So if you this is a real business term and this is applicable across all business models, not just real estate, right? So LTGP is the lifetime gross profit. And then the CAC, the customer acquisition, is basically in real estate, the cost per contract, right? How much money did you spend to get a contract signed? And that would be your CAC. So what you want to do is you want to use gross profit. And the reason why is because if you get a $15,000 assignment fee, but you spent $12,000 in marketing, you're only making $3,000 a deal. So if you're only making $3,000 a deal and it spent you $12,000 to get that deal, is that work worth it? Right? Was that marketing channel the most effective channel to close a deal? The answer is no, right? The rule of thumb is you want to try to get a 3 to 1. So if you're spending $10,000 in marketing, you want to try to make at least $30,000 in gross profit. And I'll show you guys a quick exercise here that you guys can do to help you guys out. So simple wholesaler equation, right? I'm not a math guy. I think Phil is more of a math guy, but this math equation is super easy to use. So you want to use your average assignment fee. So if you guys don't know what your average assignment fee because you're new, average assignment fees range between $10,000 to $15,000 per deal, especially if you're in like a major metro city like Dallas, Houston, Tampa, stuff like that. Those are the average assignment fees that you're probably going to see per deal. So you take that assignment fee of $10,000 and then you want to do the average gross profit. So you want to subtract your deal direct cost, right? Your direct deal cost, which is your marketing, the title company, all that stuff. And that is your true number of how much money you truly make. So if I do a $10,000 deal and it cost me $2,000 of marketing, right? Minus about $1,000 in fees, I'm probably walking away with $7,000 per deal, right? If I'm doing $10,000 assignment fees. So imagine that this number here is $7,000. And then my max CAC per contract is 20 to 30% of my fee. So can someone do the math here? I think that's like what 20% is 2,000, 30% is 3,000. So if you're spending more than $3,000 to acquire that contract and you're only making $7,000 of gross profit, that is not necessarily the best marketing channel for you to use. Okay, so this is a super easy math equation. You guys can literally take a picture of this with your cell phone and then you guys can do the math on your own deals. Right, this is the little exercise. So you can screenshot this with your cell phone and then you get to have a little picture of me as well on your phone. so that's not a bad thing to have. Cool. So I want to talk about the universal funnel. So universal funnel here is you want to look at it by you get the most touches and impressions, right? So every marketing channel, either cold calling, SMS, meta ads, they run through the same funnel, right? So don't like make this overcomplicated. It's the same funnel. Like you start off with touches and touches and impressions essentially are calls, any text message, any mail that you send out, any impressions if you're running ads, who's seeing your ads. These are all in the biggest part of the funnel. Then it's going to go down to actual conversations with the sellers. And then you're going to funnel down to people who are actually interested and then ultimately getting contracts signed, right? That is the basic funnel of how things should work is you're doing the marketing, you're doing the outreach, and then you actually have real conversation with people that may or may not be interested. And then you ultimately get those contracts assigned and then you get paid, right? Oh, here we go. So here's how you can exercise your last 30 days. So if you guys are actively marketing, who here is actively marketing right now? Is anybody actively marketing right now? You can type in the chat. Actively marketing for deals right now? I know Phil is, but a little
I was
different.
gonna say
All
me,
right. So
but
you want
yeah.
track how many touches. So if you guys are cold calling, right? If you guys are cold calling and all this stuff, impressions and touches. So for Lazaro, he talks to realtor or Ken's talking to realtors, right? So how many realtors is he talking to at a time or per last 30 days? So let's say he's doing 100 people. And yes, cold calling counts, right? So if you're doing $150 a day times 30, right? That's how many touches or impressions you're doing in the last 30 days. Okay. Out of those leads or those impressions you're doing, how many of them actually turn into leads, right? People that actually talk to you. Then you want to go down even deeper. Okay. Once they talk to you, how many of them are actual good conversations, right? So how we track conversations is anything over a minute on the phone is a conversation, right? Because you don't want to count like pick up, hang up, like that's not real. But these are people that actually talk to you on the phone for over a minute and have a conversation and get through that intro script, right? Because how we look at it is, hey, are you interested in selling? They're going to say yes or no. And then you go through that quick intro script and you go into the process. And then once people are interested, how many of them turn into appointments? So appointments for us, it doesn't have to be in-person appointments. It could be, a phone call where you actually go through the discovery process where you figure out their motivation, their timeline, all that stuff. That is what an appointment is. And then you go down to how many people get signed on their contract and then closings. The reason why you want to track closings is because not every deal closes, right? If you guys have done real estate, I think out of 10 deals under contract, at least 3 fall out of contract, either because of, inspections, closing issues, title problems, right? Those are the most common ones that I see. But there's always going to be a risk that your contract that you get signed doesn't close, right? So you want to add that metric. So if you guys are, I know a dude that literally had 10 deals on their contract. So he had 10 deals on their contract. So he had 10 and then he had zero close. Like, what does that tell you? That means he either signed those contracts way too high, right? Or like he just doesn't have buyers, whatever the case may be. But signing a ton of contracts doesn't mean you're going to make money. And it's just a sexy number that people tell you, like, oh, we just got 10 deals on the contract this month. But I like to ask them, how many did they actually close and did you collect any cash? And if it's zero, it doesn't matter how many contracts you signed because you're still not getting paid. So you want to track that as well. So we're going to talk about outbound now. So this is like where the meat and potatoes of the training is going to be. I'm going to talk about the core ones that you guys are probably using right now, like texting, cold calling, and then we're going to talk about best practices. Okay. So the rule of 100 for wholesalers, no matter what you do, in the very beginning, it's all about putting in the effort, being consistent, and putting in the volume. And a lot of you guys have 9 to 5 jobs, like kind of how I did, right? So I had a 9 to 5 job when I first started wholesaling. And I try to really implement the rule of 100. It's super simple. You do it every single day, and you either make 100 outbound touches, either do calls, texts, or emails, or spend 100 minutes on building ads. So if you guys are ad people, you guys can do that. You want to spend at least 100 minutes on making ads. What me and Phil learned this from is from Alex Ramosi, right? If you are starting any business and you have no money to spend, right? This is if you have $0 to spend. Alex Ramosi is like the only way to do it is by doing relentless volume, right? And you do volume by scale. And a lot of people don't have the time and effort to do 1,000 text messages a day. So what you do is you make it very simple. So if you were just starting out and you're like, yo, I got 90 days to make a deal. Well, do you have the discipline and the mindset to commit to 90 days of doing 100 actions a day? And I'll tell you, doing 100 outbound calls with a dialer, very doable. That's about an hour, hour and a half of work every single day. Okay. If you do an hour, hour and a half of work every single day for 100 days, I promise you, you're going to get a ton of conversations, right? And you're going to ultimately close your first deal if you guys haven't. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to lock in your outbound commitment. Okay. This is what I want you guys to do today is I want you guys to think about what channel that you're willing to use and willing to do for 100 days, right? You can cold call, you can SMS, you can write your own dang letters if you really wanted to. You can send 100 cold emails, which I don't think you should. You probably should send way more because it's so cheap. But you want to pick one, right? And most people will probably pick cold calling because I think personally cold calling is still pound for pound the best marketing channel for wholesalers because you have the fastest time of conversion. If you call someone and they pick up and they want to sell, you can immediately have that conversation. Text messages are a little different or cold emails a little different because you have to book the appointment for them. Okay. So Lazaro is doing the same thing. So he's cold calling SMS and email, right? And I think you're direct to seller as well. So you want to set your daily target. Obviously 100 it should be the minimum. If you're doing 20 calls a day, honestly, this isn't for you, right? I'll just be honest with you. I know some people, I know most people that get started and they're frustrated that they're not doing deals. And I ask them one question, like how many calls or dials are you doing? And they'll say, oh, I make like 20 calls a day. And I'm like, bro, like one of my acquisition managers, obviously she works full time, but she's making $3,600 to $4,000 a week. So there's just a big discrepancy of like how much volume you can do and how many leads you do. And we'll talk about expectations when we get into the individual marketing channel of like what to expect when you actually are marketing, right? Then you want to select your 90-day window. I would say to keep it consistent, let's do 100 days. So 100 touches for 100 days on one marketing channel. So cold calling KPI. So this is kind of the intro to like what we're going to talk about today. So cold calling KPIs, right? Best case benchmarks is you want to talk to 8 to 15 live conversations per $100. And remember, conversations are anything over 1 minute. Okay? This is not like actual leads that are like, "Yes, I want to sell." But at the end of the day, you want to have 10 to 20% express some interest when you talk to them, and then 3 to 8% of the leads per contact turn into contracts. So in a very simple way, I put it in a little paragraph, is every $100 you make, you're looking at every 10 conversations you have, so 10 people over 1 minute is 1 to 2 leads. So you're hoping to get at least 1 to 2 leads per 10 conversations, and then you want to try to get a contract out of 1 to 3 of those contacts. Does that make sense? I hope I'm articulating this the correct way. I want to make sure that you guys understand what I'm saying. So basically, like at the end of the month, if you're doing, let's say, 30 days in a month, you put $3,000, right? And out of those $3,000, you should have 300 conversations and about 30 leads. Like theoretically 30 people that want to speak to you. In reality, do you think that you can get 1 to 2 wholesale contracts from that? If you spent the time calling the right data, right? Calling bulk data is probably not the way to do it if you're calling 100 records a day. But if you were doing foreclosures in your local neighborhood, which is what we teach, right? Niche foundation, is if you focused on one of your counties and you called 100 foreclosures every day, right, in your county or neighboring counties, and you had all those real conversations, do you think that you can get 1 to 2 deals out of that? I think so, but you have to be very consistent, right? I say it right here, list quality matters than the script, right? Because you can be a horrible salesperson, but if you knock on someone's door and you talk to someone that's going through foreclosure, what do you think the conversation is going to be? They're way more motivated to make a decision, right? Versus someone that's not, someone that is on an absentee owner list where you call them, they're like, bro, you're like the 100th person that called me, and no, I'm not interested in selling. But if you're focusing all your time and energy on a distressed list, they do have to make a decision, right? So best practices, I want to tell you guys there's so much stuff coming out with marketing stuff, especially with cold calling and agencies and all that stuff. And I want to tell you legal stuff, right? If someone's selling you a cold calling AI bot, I'll tell you that it is super illegal to do. Okay. It is super, super illegal to use a AI dialer to cold call. What you can use AI for is anything inbound, right? So if someone fills out your ad, someone texts you and says, yes, you can talk to me, that is 100% legal to use AI, right? Or an email, and anybody responds to an email and says that they give you consent, that's absolutely cool. If you're using AI to cold call, you are literally opening yourself up to a ton of lawsuits. Okay. So I just want to make sure that we cover that, is that you don't want to robo dial. What you want to do too is follow contacts calling time window. So legally, in a legal standpoint, right? In a legal standpoint, um, every city, every county has different rules and regulations in terms of when you can call. So, an example is if you're in Texas, which is my market, in Texas, it will say that you can only cold call telemarket between the hours of like 9, I think it was 8:30 to like 7 p.m. or 8 p.m., right? If you are telemarketing, even if you are a legal registered business to telemarket, which we are, then you can get sued or fined, right? Also, who the hell wants to pick up a phone call at 7 a.m.? Like, if you guys are doing that, like, that's probably why you're not doing deals, because everyone's pissed that you're calling them. Or you're calling them at like 9 p.m. when they're trying to go to sleep. So make sure that you follow the time windows. And then also, if you guys have been to any of my sales trainings or grabbed the free resources, you want to identify yourself in the first 30 seconds, which is what all of our scripts do. And I'll kind of give you guys an example here, is that you always want to make sure that you tell them who you are, what company you work for, and why you're calling them, right? Because that is what that you have to do that. Like, that is legally what you have to do. You can't just call someone, talk to them about a whole bunch of stuff, and then you're like, oh, by the way, like, I'm actually a home buyer and I want to buy your house. you need to identify yourself. So, phone infrastructure. What I mean by that is if you guys are cold calling, right, not just through your cell phone here like this, but if you have a team, if you have a dialer, maybe you're using a call center, whatever the case may be, you need to have a phone infrastructure. So, a lot of you guys who are going to watch this on the recording or on the live today, you may be using power dialers already, right? Power dialers is something that if you have a list, you have a software that calls each lead one by one. You can buy that for like $99 a month, or you can go up to like triple line dialers that call three numbers at once. Okay. If you're using county courthouse, you don't need the triple line dialers necessarily. I would do single line dial, especially if you're only doing 100 to 150 dials a day. Okay. So when you're calling a lot of leads, some of our community members, some of our students call like hundreds and hundreds of leads per day. So what I mean by phone infrastructure is you want to replicate human like activity as much as you can. And what I mean by that is if you have one phone number for cold calling and you rip 1,000 calls a day off that, the phone carriers like Verizon, Sprint, AT&T, they will flag your phone number as spam likely. Okay, they have an internal clock, internal system that tracks inhuman behavior, right? Inhuman behavior. That's calling at the same time, leaving the same voicemail every single time you call. Tons of calls, tons of hangups instantly. That is inhuman activity that the phone carriers will actually detect. And also, they know that no human can sit on one phone number and call 1,000 people. So what we do to kind of keep it safe is some of the biggest operators, some of my friends that are doing $2, $3 million a year just doing cold calling, which is insane. They're nationwide. That they have like 100 phone numbers per county, and they're only doing 50 to 75 dials per phone, which is a little insane, honestly. I would probably stick to this. Okay, I would probably stick to 75 to 150 dials per cell phone number that you buy. And what I mean by that is when you buy a CRM or when you buy a dialer, you can actually buy a ton of different phone numbers. They're like $1.50 to $2 per phone number. But you want to stay in that range of probably 100 to 150 dollars a day per phone. Okay. What you do in the very beginning, best practices for this is that when you guys are buying new phone numbers, that you warm up your phone numbers. Okay. You want to warm them up. So what I usually do is if I buy a new phone number, I'll call $50 a day for like 2 weeks. Once that's done, that phone number is warmed up, and then I can move it into the main category of calling 100 to $150 a day. Right. You don't want to start anything cold and start jamming phone calls through. If you guys are calling more than 200, 250 dials a day with each phone, like your phone numbers are going to get cooked. And I know some of you guys are experiencing this, right? Where your phone numbers, literally what's crazy is there's a thing called spam likely. So if you guys don't know what spam likely is, that means the phone carrier has flagged your phone number. And that means that your number is dialing and it doesn't actually connect to a seller. So you're just sitting on the phone for hours and hours and hours and wondering, why isn't anyone picking up my phone? Okay. It's absolutely crazy. So, a couple best practices: use local area codes. People pick up way more when you're calling from the same county area code, right? This is not rocket science, but there's people that use their, my number is 845, right? So I'll call with the 845 number and literally call like a Florida number. That is probably not going to work well, right? If you guys are cold calling, before you start, cold call yourself first. Okay. Cold call yourself, because you would be surprised when you call yourself and it says spam. That means everybody else is seeing your number as spam. Okay. So what we do, best practice, is you warm up your phones. So before you start your cold calling session, call them, call yourself and say, oh shit, my phone number is spam. That means you should probably change your numbers. Okay. And then also talk on the phone for about a minute or two, or just leave it on for a minute or two. That tells the phone carriers that you're having real conversations, which then lowers your unhuman like activity. Okay. Inhuman patterns. So if you are calling hundreds of people a day and you leave the same voicemail every single day, if you're calling the same times every day, that is inhuman, right? We have internal SOPs that we teach our community, right? Like some of you guys are in here. We teach them that, hey, if you're going to leave a voicemail, You don't have to leave a voicemail every time, right? You can leave a voicemail here and there, send a text message here and there, call at different times, right? So if you're calling a ton of people in the morning, try calling those same leads later in the evening, right? That's an unnatural cadence that you want to follow. So it makes yourself more human like. Okay. All right. I know that was a lot, but let's go into SMS. Okay. SMS, here are your holy grail numbers: 85 to 95% delivery. If you guys are going under that, there could be issues with your data. So this is why we track KPIs. So I can tell when I have a bad list if my delivery rate is getting into this range, right? If it's even if it's in between 85 to 95%, I probably know that there's probably something wrong with my data, or I'm texting a lot of landlines and stuff like that, because landlines count as a undeliverable text, obviously. So you want to make sure that you're cleaning it. If you're below 80%, your numbers are probably flagged, or your 10 DLC registration, which is your A2P stuff to make you legally be able to telemarket, is probably messed up. Okay. You want to hit a 3 to 8% reply rate. So this could be good or bad, right? This includes the stop and the wrong number stuff. That's just raw engagement showing that your text messages are sending and people are responding to your copy. And then out of that text message, 1 to 3% positive reply. So these are people that actually say that they're interested or they want to talk to you on the phone, right? Or schedule an appointment. So 1 to 3% of your text messages should convert into a booked call. So I know a lot of people get freaked out. They're like, I'm sending 2,000 text messages a day or a week, whatever, a month, and I'm getting no appointments. Just understand that 1 to 3% of those text messages should be trying to book a call with you. Okay. And with AI, it makes it a lot easier because you don't have to like actively sit there. It should be booking appointments for you. So to set realistic expectations, 1 to 3,000 text messages should exact to one contract. Okay. So if you're ripping 4 or 5,000 text messages to fresh lists like probate, divorce, lease pendants, code violations, this actually works, right? I just talked to my friend Hayes. He literally just sent a bunch of text messages for lease pendants and literally just booked 2 appointments, right? So, but there's a math equation associated to this, so you don't feel discouraged when you're not getting the feedback that you're looking for, right? It should only be data-driven decisions when you're looking at your metrics. Does this make sense, everybody? I'm gonna keep going. Best practices. Okay, so there, guys, I am on a recorded trading today. So I will tell you what to do legally. Okay. I'm not going to tell you to make marketing shell companies or XYZ publicly. I'm just saying it's in the realm of possible. Okay. But what you want to do to stay compliant and stay legal with SMS is technically cold texting is like mega illegal across the board if they're on the DNC. So if they are on DNC, I would 100% avoid texting them. Okay. Only text them if they've opted in, right? So ads, emails, phone calls, whatever the case may be. Texting these is very risky. When you are texting with an automation, so you can text legally with your cell phone, like without ATP, because this is your real person. But if you're a business and you're telemarketing, or you use a software to do it, like a lot of us would go high level, launch control, whatever the case may be, you need to get A2P 10 DLC set up. This is a legal process that you pay like $100 to $200 to register your business, your business social security numbers, your EIN, all that stuff. This is to legally allow you to text message. Consent. Okay. Consent is not saying, I swear to God, I've heard this 1,000 times, where someone says, oh, where'd you get my number from? Oh, I got your list from the county records. That is not consent, right? So I want to tell you that is not consent to cold text message somebody. Now, do we do that? Absolutely, we do. But what I'm saying is, don't think that you're legally okay to say, oh, I just got your number from the county records. That's why I'm texting you. That's actually not kosher. But what you should do is just say, hey, I'm trying to buy your house, whatever the case may be. The most safe way to do this, if you're cold texting, is if you cold call them, you leave a voicemail, and then you text them saying, hey, I called you about your property on 123 Main Street. Just wondering if you'd be interested in talking to me. Like, that is a cold text, but it is personalized. It's not automated. It's something that you physically try to reach out to them and you're just trying to see if they're open to having a conversation with you. If they say no, stop texting them. Don't say like, "Oh, what do you mean by that? Like, why are you?" No, if they say stop, like just stop. Okay. Like the cold calling, I want to talk about infrastructure. So I know a lot of folks are sending automated text messages, which is dope, right? I recommend sending automated text messages. Like I think it crushes, especially with AI. But what you want to do is you want to do the same thing with cold calling numbers versus your SMS numbers. So we send about on the conservative side, you can go 50, but really phone numbers can go up to like 200, right? Just being honest. Like you can send 2 to 500 text or 2 to 400 text messages a day per cell phone number if you really wanted to. That's pretty safe. If you guys are sending gifts, if you guys are sending like book call links, if you guys are sending spammy keywords like sell your home fast, cash offers, whatever, they will get blocked on DLC 10 and also A2P. So I know a guy, Ashton, I love you, brother. I've seen your text messages. They're funny as heck, but sending gifts is not good. Sending gifts like raises a ton of spam alarms with the phone vendors. So just keep it very simple. Under 100 characters, very to the point, as personalized as possible. That's how you convert text leads into appointments. And we talk about that super in depth inside the inner circle, but I just wanted to give you guys a very high overview of like what not to do when you're sending cold text messages. Okay. Copy human like behavior. So the automations, okay? Automations are the best thing in the world, especially with AI, all these different things. But the problem, what people are doing is they build these automations and they rip 500 leads at once. So they put 500 leads through the system and they have no cadence to them. They're just sending 500 text messages at once. Bro, do you think the phone carriers are not seeing that? Do you think Verizon, AT&T is not seeing my 832 number sending 1,000 text messages in a minute? Yes, they see it. Okay. Just add a drip. Every 5 minutes, we send 2 to 3 text messages. Every 5 minutes, we send 2 to 3 text messages. Because why? Think about how long it takes for me to send a text. Yo, what's up, Phil? Like, do you want to sell your house? Like, it takes me some time. But if I'm sending 1,000 text messages within a minute, that is not okay, right? It is not okay. So think about it that way. How long would it take a human to send text messages? That's what you want to put into your system. Okay. And I kind of talk about it here. Best practices, drip campaigns, no blasts, different text variations, right? If you're sending 100 text messages, how many different versions of those text messages do you have? You want to mix them up in different ways so you're not sending the same ones. And then when someone opts out, you obviously want to respect that. Okay. All right. Here's like the money model here. The money module everyone wants to talk about is emailing. So cold email open rates, 30% is like the standard, right? The 50% is just like best wishes, but 30% is like what you want. It's all about the subject line, right? And the data. So if you send to shitty data, then no one's going to open it because it's not going anywhere. But if you send emails to very targeted lists like distressed properties, the subject line causes people to open. And I'll show you my actual Houston campaigns in a second to show you what's possible and how much money I spend personally on emails. And you're going to be like, wow, this is like kind of stupid. Okay. Reply rate 2 to 5%. This is the same thing as text messaging. This includes just people that hate you or angry at you, whatever the case may be. And then your positive reply rate 0.5% to 2%. The industry standard for cold emailing is around 3%, but this is like a more realistic range for cold email. Right? Deals per 5,000 to 15,000 emails sent, right? That's usually volume is the key of cold email. It's super cheap, but it requires the infrastructure. So it requires domain setup, warm up phases, and then switching out your domains, right? Which we'll talk about. But this is a pure volume play. So if you're sending like 100 emails a month, like this is not the strategy you want to like blast, right? So I'll kind of show you this. So here's a campaign that I did in Houston. You'll see in the last 4 weeks, and this is just pre-foreclosures specifically. So like that's why it's so low, and we still have about 100 leads to go, right? 158 leads to go. So you'll see this insane open rate. like 74% open rate, which is like kind of disgusting, right? So you saw the stats of 30 to 50% open rate. We have a 74% open rate for our foreclosure data. And then we're hitting about almost a 3% reply rate. And then we have a 33% positive reply rate in this one campaign. We have a very blanket statement of like $10,000 per opportunity, but basically what we do here is anybody that replies to us saying they want to book a call with us or asking us for our lead magnet is an opportunity. So then this goes into our CRM, which automates with text messaging. And then when we turn on our AI bot, that AI bot can actually qualify those leads, right? So this is super cool. So like I'll give you an example of like the copy we use, right? So support for your mortgage in Houston. Okay. It's very targeted to like who I'm talking to, right? You want to make sure that it's not like sell your home fast cash, right? Like they're just going to delete it or mark you as spam, but it's like support for your mortgage. It's like value oriented, right? And then if you want a complimentary guide on how to help you, just reply guide. If you guys don't know, with cold email, what makes your email healthy, what makes it more likely to be good is people actually conversing with you and having conversations with you, right? Replying to you. So you want to get replies to make your emails higher delivery. If no one's responding to you, your emails are going to get hit with spam. Okay. The only rules and regulations right now that would hem you up with cold email is it doesn't follow the strict TCPA rules, right? But you do have to follow CAN spam. So CAN dash spam. That is basically not marketing with super spammy words and also giving the people the opportunity to opt out of your emails. If you don't have an opt out way, then you can actually get sued because you're not following CAN spam. Now, it is way more friendly than telemarketing because you're not invading people's like privacy and stuff. It's way easier to just send an email. We use Instantly, right? I posted a ton of videos about Instantly. This is the best software in terms of cold email. So basically, like we have tons of different emails here. We have dozens of emails, and I'm sending about 30 to 50 emails per mailbox. So this is how we build our infrastructure. And then out of all these emails, we also have multiple domains. Okay. Does this make sense? Like it's the same thing as cell phones, right? You don't want to send too many text messages or calls. Sending with emails, we rotate between all these different emails here. I think there's like 30, right? Or something like that. It's a lot of emails here. Okay. We have multiple campaigns. We have multiple campaigns for each lead type. So you want to make it as personal as possible. And then overall, we sent 3,000 text or emails in the last 4 weeks because we only do county records. We don't do anything. We don't do mass blast marketing anymore for emails. We're very targeted. If you run ads and you collect people's emails, 100% email market them. One of my acquisition managers, she actually sold her house for cash to an investor. And I asked her, what made you sell to that person versus somebody else? She said that company was the only one that was communicating with me with email, and it just seemed way more professional. You see that? It's just different, right? We're just being a little different from everybody else. Okay. We break this. I have a YouTube video in here that explains how to set this up for you. Super easy. The only issue is obviously building the copy, but overall for all our campaigns in Houston, the last 4 weeks, we had 10 leads that came in the pipeline, and this cost me about $250 for the entire month. That's the software. That's the emails we pay for. The only thing that you would have to do is the labor, right, of building out the emails and all that stuff. Okay. So super, super cheap for 10 opportunities worth at least 90 grand of opportunities. So if I close one of those, $10,000 on $250 marketing spend. What is that LTGP to CAC? Absolutely wild. It's like what, 30x or something, right? So super, super awesome. That's why I do cold email. Cool. See the next slide. All right. I know direct mail is a fantastic marketing channel. It is probably one of the best marketing channels in the industry, but you need a ton of money. So you see that the response rates are very low, 0.5 to 2%. 2%, man, if you gotta be like a god in direct mail to hit 2%, but it is truly the best, right? If you send consistent mail to consistent people, consistent list, you will get a ton of results. It just takes a ton of money up front to do it. I think people are spending 5 to 8 grand a month for at least 4 months. So if you spend all your money on 1 month of direct mail, you're not going to do any deals. Okay. You need to do it for at least 3 to 4 months because on average, if you guys don't know, on average, it takes 3 to 4 times someone reads your mail before they feel comfortable calling you. So if you send mail for 1 month and then you stop mailing them entirely, your chances of them calling you back significantly drops. Okay. You can use yellow letters. That's probably the cheapest direct mail company out there. But if you just did it yourself, you'd save a lot more money. Out of 100 leads, right, you should get a contract. But you're sending, look how much mail you're sending 1,500 to 4,000 pieces, bro. 3 to 5 mailings per the same list. Like it is very expensive to do this. Very, very expensive, right? And then also a fun fact too, if someone calls you, right, a direct mail lead, and you don't pick up the phone, your response rate of trying to contact them again drops like 99%. So if you guys are doing direct mail, you need to have someone on staff or you need to have some AI qualifier to pick up the phone when someone calls you. Okay. If you're not doing that, do not do direct mail. Okay. Do not do it. This is just an exercise here, right? Screenshot this, take a picture of this. I'll leave it here for a second here to take a picture. This is just a exercise to plug in what you've been doing, what type of marketing you're doing, and then how much money you're spending to actually figure out what your cost per lead is and what your cost per contract is. Okay, this is the basic KPIs that you need to follow. Module 3, inbound. Okay, my favorite marketing channel. Everyone online is talking about ads and stuff, right? So this is how you kind of track your ads, right? You want to see cost per milli. CPM is how much does it cost to generate 1,000 impressions. So that's basically 1,000 people seeing your ad. How much does that cost you? Then you want to see how much money it costs every time they click your link, and then or click-through rate. And then also you want to track your cost per click, which is when they're actually clicking on your form to fill out your stuff. Okay. When they actually fill out your stuff, this is what most agency or Facebook ad people are talking about, is what their cost per lead is, how much money it costs them to have someone fill out their entire form. Okay. Then you want to see how many leads it takes you to get a contract. So if you're doing Google ads, it's probably like 1 out of 12, 1 to 10, 1 to 12. Facebook is a little higher. It's like it goes up to like 1 out of 25 leads is a contract. But Facebook leads is significantly cheaper than Google ads. Okay. So that's just a fun fact. If your cost per contract lands within the 3 times return on investment, then keep optimizing and keep growing it. If not, if you're not making 3 times the dollars, then you need to like redo it, right? You need to fix something in your business. So this is another exercise here. I'll have all these spreadsheets for you in the recording as well, so you guys don't have to like memorize all this stuff. But this is just an example of like what it works, right? So every 1,000 impressions cost me $25, 2% click-through rate. So my cost per click is about $1.25. I'm converting 15%. So my cost per lead is $8.33. These are more Facebook ad numbers. This is definitely not a Google PPC number. Like Google PPC is way more expensive. Phil's laughing because he knows, but this is more of like Facebook. So if you're doing Facebook, you probably need to do like 20 of these. So 20 times $8, that's usually like what your contract would be, right? And that would give you your cost per contract, which is, this is not accurate, guys. This is just a crappy example I made. Okay. All right. We're gonna dive a little deeper in emails. We're gonna dive a little deeper in like lead nurture. So your first pillar of like lead nurture, this is all should be very basic stuff, but this is like key fundamentals within marketing. If you're spending, right? I want to ask you a question. If you're spending a ton of money on marketing and you're not available to take their calls, like why are you spending that money? Because you're just wasting money, right? So you want to make sure that you have callers ready when they call you back or text you back, whatever the case may be, Live answer rates, your callback windows, after hour automations. What I mean by that is like if you are not working and you're running ads or you're running direct mail, you know people are going to call you at like 9 p.m. Like when I read my mail, like when I do actually read my mail, I have like a pile of mail sitting here. But when you actually read your mail, it's going to be like late, right? Or you read something and you try to go to sleep and you're stressed out. And then you're like, you know what? I do need to sell my house. I'm going to go call this guy. And it's like 1 a.m. Or late night scrolling on their laptop and they fill out your ad at like 12 a.m. Like they're doing that with like 6 different houses or 6 different companies. I promise you that they're filling out multiple forms, and whoever calls them back first is going to have a conversation. And who the hell is going to call you at 1 a.m.? My AI robot, Emma. Okay. Emma, Phil built it, super, super smart AI bot. But Emma's going to call that person at 1 a.m. I'm sleeping. Okay. You got to make sure you have someone available. I always talk about speed to lead because speed to lead is the number one thing you can do in your business to increase the amount of deals you're doing. A lead contacts you within 5 minutes, you have a 21x more likely to convert that lead if you contacted them after 30 minutes. Let that sink in. If you call them within 1 minute, it's like 132x likely they're going to convert within 1 minute. So obviously most people can't do the 1 minute. So I like to show them 5 minutes because that's when the significant drop-offs do happen is if you wait past 5 minutes. So we have a golden rule in our business for wholesaling is if somebody texts you back, you have to text them back within 5 minutes. We have AI, but we have people that work during the day as well. If someone sees that text message and they can take it, they take it. If we are responding post 5 minutes, like they're getting talking to, right? That is not good because you lose 21x likely to convert if you're waiting past that. Okay. So just understand. So if you guys are thinking about your business and your marketing, and I see some wholesalers in here, right, that are actively marketing, this is a huge component of why you're not doing deals. Okay. Personalization, right? Talk about the property, talk about the situation. Like when we do cold calls, our script says, hey, we saw that you had an auction in 10 March. Like, have you thought about like what you want to do? Have you been considering selling it in the future? Right? We talk about the situation to make it personal. It's not a generic call center like a VA from India or something saying like, yo, are you the owner? Like, it's like, dude, like make it personal. Okay. Your follow up has to be very specific. It's like a follow up, it's like a service. Okay. And then volume. Most people stop messaging or stop following up within the first or two follow ups. I know someone in here is guilty. I was too. Okay. I would try to follow up with them 2 times. And if they didn't talk to me or didn't respond, I would call them dead. I would literally mark them dead in my CRM. But most deals actually happen between 7 to 12 touches. That's why we call them so much. That's why we text them so much. That's why we email them. Everything you do is a touch, right? So if you're running ads, you're sending mail, all those are different touches to kind of make it like an ecosphere of marketing. Okay. This is like a little like cute little photo here of like what it looks like, right? Day one, you call them, you text them, you send a voicemail, and then guys, yes, you should double dial. Okay. If you double dial, what does that mean? You call them, they don't pick up, you wait a minute, you call them back, they don't pick up, you leave a voicemail, you send them a nice text message. Then on the first day, if it's a foreclosure lead or a distressed property, I wait until 8 hours later and I call them again in the evening when they're probably most likely to get home. Why am I doing that? In the first week of a new lead coming in, you have other people reaching out to them. You have other people that are calling them one time and giving up. You need to be relentless in the first week, right? So 9 a.m., 10 a.m., I'm calling them. And then we wait until they get off work at 5 p.m. because you want to try different times. If you're calling guys, right, this is a good metric for you guys to track your KPIs, is if you're cold calling for a month and you're getting no connection rates, I would ask you, when are you calling them and are you calling them at the same time? Most likely people are doing it at the same time because they either work a 9 to 5 and there's only certain times they can call. But have you ever tried thinking about calling them at 5 to 8 p.m. versus 10 a.m., right? You're going to have way different metrics based on when you call somebody. So that's why you always have to test and track how your things are doing. so you can make a decision as a business owner, what is the best case scenario, okay? So if you're getting low response rate in the morning, try in the evening. I promise you it's probably gonna go up because people are coming off work, okay? And this is just a very simple path of like how many touches you do. Like these are just multiple touches throughout the first 7 days to get to that 7 to 12 touches to build that trust. And you can actually like change this, right? This is just an example of like how we would set it up in our CRM and how we would set it up as a systems wise like plan of like how many times do we call, how many times do we text, how many times do we email. So there's different kinds of things that you can do. Okay. So what I want you to do is in your CRM, if you have one, or you can use an Excel graph here, is that you want to organize your leads in a very organized fashion, right? Based off how you would personally track your data. So if you were doing new leads, these are all untouched leads, right? This auto triggers a 7-day cadence for us of how aggressive we want to go. And then we want to see who we've actually contacted. So these are people that we've had a live conversation, and then we actually try to qualify them to see if they're ready to take an offer. Okay. Property walkthrough or virtual call schedule. This is to your closer, right? Or if it's yourself, then you're going to be the one actually trying to get them on the phone to get them to sign a contract. And then here you go, right? You get them, you offer them, wow, I can't talk. You make the offer, you get it under contract, and then you ultimately close. So you want to track these things, very simple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things if you're a brand new beginner of what to track. So email marketing, sellers versus buyers, right? You can send emails to sellers and you can also send emails to your buyers. So if you guys are wholesaling, selling a flip, whatever the case may be, this is just telling you that you can market it to both ways. There are different strategies and how to write copy. You're going to get the slide deck as well in the recording, but this is just different things you could do. For sellers specifically, I want to talk about sellers, that you want to keep it short, plain text, no HTML, no links, right? Just like text messaging. You want to make it very personal, right? How do you act like the neighbor? How do you provide value so they actually respond to you, right? You want to ask a simple ask per email. Like, do you want the free guide reply? Do you want to call back? What's your phone number, right? The reason why we ask them for their phone number is if they provide their phone number in the email, that is consent for us to talk to them, right? If they give us their email and they say you can call, our AI bot can actually legal call them. They can legally call you because they provided a phone number. Okay. 6 to 10 touches over 30 to 45 days. This is a very long-term game with emails as well. So you want to be aggressive in the first 7 days, but this is a great and cheap way to stay in touch with a seller without invading their privacy by blowing up their phone, right? I hate when people blow up my phone, but I'm okay with you sending me emails. Like I have email marketing companies that send me like 2 emails a day and I still read them, right? So it's a little different than text messaging. Okay. Your goal is to get a reply, and that's it. You want to reply. If they're replying to you in a nice way, they're a lead. Okay. This is the key. You want to get replies. You want to freaking warm up your domains like anything else, 14-day domain warm ups. You can use instantly. It does it for you, right? You pay the $97 a month for the software. They do the warm ups for you. And you also want to scrub your list. You can pay money to actually verify your leads. So if you have 1,000 email contacts and you like run money to it, like you can actually pay for a service to actually validate your emails to see if they're active, to see if people are using them. So you don't screw up your deliverability rate by screening your leads. Okay. It's a very, very important thing. Anything that bounces, remove from your automations immediately, and then use a dedicated sending domain. Never use your business email. Okay. I did this. I scorched my domain. Okay. Use aliases that you see my instantly account, right? I'll give you an example of what it looks like. So we go to our campaigns here. Actually, let's go to my emails. You see how like they're all different versions of the company. They're all different variations, right? And you can buy different domains and then build those emails from there. Okay. Do not use your main one. It will destroy you. Promise you. Cool. I already talked about this stuff, right? This is SMS call compliance, how to not act like a spammer, right? This is just a refresher. Don't have to go over it again, right? But make sure you follow the rules. Make sure you're not calling DNC. Make sure you're rotating your numbers and don't act like a spammer, right? Don't send identical text messages to thousands of people. Space out your sends. Behave like a real person. Okay. Another exercise. If you guys haven't noticed, every one of my trainings, I give you a ton of homework to do to make sure that you're actually doing what I'm telling you to do. Because I promise you, if you're not tracking this stuff, you're never going to scale your business, right? You want to treat your business like an actual business. So this is just another exercise to use, right? Scoreboards, implementations, right? You want to track all your stuff, your marketing spend, right? If you have a CRM, have a dashboard that tracks all this stuff, or you can use an Excel document, right? You want to track your volume, cost per lead, cost per contract, and then how much money you're actually making. The fix it order, right? Where do I look to fix first? So this is some homework that you can do for your actual business today on what to fix to make it the most profitable, right? So speed to lead. If you have leads, a lot of you guys already have leads, right? But are you contacting them within 5 minutes? If you're not, this is your number one problem to fix. You fix this one thing with your current leads, you'll make money, right? You'll definitely make money out of your leads that you're already talking to. Okay. Number two, how many times are you talking to them? Are you only trying to hit them 1 to 2 times? If so, this is the second thing you want to fix. So you want to fix your speed and you want to fix follow up because most deals aren't in the first call, right? And if you see the gurus telling you that like it's one call, I'm a one call close guy, that is not the case, right? There are some guys that, my friend Jamie is in here. I think you're still in here. No, he's actually gone. So Jamie actually was talking to Elise. He's been talking to this lady for like 4 weeks, right? And it's going to be a killer deal, but it takes time for the good deals to happen, right? Number three is more of a sales thing. Are you asking the right questions? Are you making the right offers, right? Are you counting bad conversations as good leads? That's more of a sales process thing. And then number four, after you fix these three things, now you can actually see if your marketing channels are efficient or not. Okay. This is where you can actually figure out if there's something wrong with your business after you fix these three things. Then you can actually make changes within your business. Okay. And their scorecard. This is just an overview of what we talked about. We talked about the fundamentals. How much money does it cost, right? For your gross profit to how much per contract. We talked about outbound marketing, all the best practices. We talked about inbound marketing, if you guys want to do that. And then we talked about scorecards and then also how to lead nurture, right? How to actually stay in top of mind with these sellers and also staying in communication.